From the perspective of a student, a teacher, or a parent, when we think about the main subjects in school, art may not be the first one that comes to mind. Typically, we think of science, math, English, and history, but this does not mean that art serves any less of a purpose than these other subjects do. In fact, without art, we would not be producing as many creative thinkers into our world, which is so important today and will continue to be in the future. In an article called Why Art is Just as Important as Science, the author, Fran Smith, shares a quote from a famous painter, Magdalena Abrakanowicz. She states that art does not solve problems, but makes us more aware of their existence. However, Fran Smith argues the opposite. Art education does solve problems and has shown many benefits throughout students. Art has in fact been linked to the academic achievement of students, social and emotional development in our brains, and acts as a stress reliever throughout a busy day at school for those who need a break. Today, I want to discuss why art should be implemented as a more prominent subject in school and why it should not be seen as any less important than the other subjects students study. Before discussing the benefits of art, it is important to understand why it is so vital to implement art into our school days, especially for the benefits of teenagers. In a Washington Post article called Stressed Out Teens with School a Main Cause, the author Margaret Shapiro shares her statistics. In a pool of 1,000 students, 83% said school was a somewhat or significant amount of stress. 27% said that it was an extreme amount of stress. In a scholarly source written by Elizabeth Scott, titled How to Relieve Stress with Art Therapy, the author shares how art might be the solution to students' stressed out days at school. Art is a form of self-care which allows us to have downtime and relax our minds to think about something else other than what might be stressing us out. It also allows us to tap into a state of flow somewhat like meditation does, and overall lets us take our mind off things, which in students' case might be school, which is what's stressing them out. Classroom curriculum can be so much about grading and meeting test scores now that it's stressing students out. But one thing that is nice about art is that whether you can only draw stick figures or whether you're the next Vincent van Gogh, if you're good at it or not, art still shares the same benefits for students. Not only will the implementation of art into our school days make for less stressed students, it will also produce more creative and critical thinkers. In the same article shared earlier, written by Fran Smith, that is titled Why Art is Just as Important as Science, Fran Smith shares that involvement in art has shown gains in math, reading, cognitive ability, critical thinking, and verbal skill. In addition, art has also shown improvement in motivation, concentration, and confidence in students. All of these benefits will create a more well-rounded individual and make a student more ready for tests in school, as well as life outside of school once they're done in the education system. Art may not be associated with critical thinkers as much as it is associated with creative thinkers. And in an article created by South College called 5 Ways Creativity Can Help You Succeed, we see even more benefits to those who are involved in the arts. Creative thinkers are generally more curious, which allows for a student who is brought new opportunities and is open to new ideas. In addition, creative thinkers are persistent and flexible, so when hard times come in their way, they are able to break down barriers and succeed. Finally, creative thinkers are highly motivated and work is fun for them, and so work is no longer seen as a chore, and for this reason, they are more likely to succeed and be involved in their work. While we have seen many benefits to art, the argument still stands that art may not be considered as important as other subjects, particularly science. We see lab goggles as one thing and paintbrushes as a completely different thing, but the two subjects are not on a level playing field, and this is unfair to art because it serves many advantages to students. A scholarly source written on the EBSCO Post titled Steamy Relationship Between Art and Science discusses how art cannot be done without science, and science cannot be done without art. To start off with, in the well-known acronym STEAM, we can already see that art is involved in the science curriculum. STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Math. I would also like you to consider the science behind something like mixing paint. This shows how science is involved in art, and on the other end, art is involved in science because almost every science project I have completed myself, and many others have completed, involves some sort of visual aid. Here's an example of a science project I completed years ago. You can clearly see that there are art elements to this project, and while art may not have been the main focus of the science project, it was a huge component in presenting it. Furthermore, one of the most well-known scientists, Charles Darwin, observed North's paintings of tropical plants, and he even admitted that they were excellent examples of his theory of natural selection. This is just one piece of evidence that shows how science intersects highly with art. but a quote from the EBSCO Post article shows even more how they relate. The direct quote states this: "Many examples of art intersecting with science exist around us, but these few highlighted here illustrate how art is crucial in helping us understand our scientific legacy and how science is well served by applying an artistic lens." I believe this quote gives a great validation to art, especially when we think about why art should be implemented into our school system. It is no longer understanding the benefits of art because there is clear evidence around us, but it is just making the step forward to implement art into our school days to best benefits our students and our future thinkers of the world. Science may make the world easier to live in, but it is art that makes it more unique and worth living in. For the well-being of our students and for the majority of how students perform and think in school, art is very important to implement into our school days. By making art a more important subject in school, we will see more critical and creative thinkers, as well as students who are less stressed about the pressures that school brings them. Art and science together will help us better understand, explore, and enjoy the world around us. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Emily Lash, and this is why art is just as important as science.